Hello everybody and welcome to the Sandbox, where I sit down and talk about things I like, or animation, which is another thing I like. Welcome. Great intro. Now, I animate. We all know this. If you come from my main channel, you know this. If you're new here, go to my main channel, ignore the fact that it's mostly bluey. I animate. But with everything that I make, I always seem to either sleep on, skim through, or just flat out ignore composition. I know that composition is important, but more often than not, I'm either pressed for time or I lack energy to actually do it properly. As of recently, in lieu of the animation famine on the main channel, I've been looking at the composition of some old projects, and I've been kind of messing around, learning for them, and seeing if I could even improve them with a better composition. And spoiler alert, you can. Or I can. You know what I mean. Composition is actually really fun. It is taking the cake and putting as much or whatever frosting you want on top of it. Sometimes even changing the footage you have altogether into something that you wouldn't actually expect it to be. Something that fits into what you're actually trying to aim for style-wise. If you're in the creative field of animation, you already know this, but I wanted to showcase the stark differences between what I put out in the world, freezing, stuttering, running out of RAM. I wanted to showcase the actual improvements I've made with the animations that I have by actually spending more time on composition and, learning how to actually apply it properly. First example here is the fight scene in Jack. If you don't know what Jack is, then I'm not surprised, honestly. Jack is a short film that I made for college, which is also a series that I want to make. Now, the animation is 50-50 because I was pressed for time because, of course, deadlines and finals and whatnot. But the composition actually exposes a lot of blemishes within the project. Obvious things from the lack of time that I had to actually draw on shadows or lighting, and not to improvise and just use rim lighting and hope that it works. Other parts I had to make up lighting, which was honestly ugly as hell. Then there's things like blending modes for the fire that I couldn't actually get down correctly, but I was running out of time. But after fiddling and actually learning how to do things, I actually came up with a way better result for this one scene right here. I know, right? Crazy good. I actually learned about implementing gradients from an animator named Denmark Lazage. I hope I didn't butcher that name. He created this Bakugo vs. Inosuke, probably butchered that too, fan animation, which is really good. Behind the scenes, he actually implemented gradients for the shadows, lighter on the top or darker on the bottom, or vice versa, things like that. And I actually implemented it for this fight scene here around Jack and the thief's feet. And honestly, I think it's actually a bit of an improvement. God, it's hot in here. Another example I have is Monster Mask. Now, admittedly, there wasn't supposed to be much composition on Monster Mask because it's supposed to be show accurate, and the show relies on the simplistic style in order for it to look as good as it does. Kind of like an unfrosted Pop-Tart. It doesn't need any. But I wanted to see what would happen if I added a few more effects onto it to make it look prettier and well, it did. It did its composition is crazy, let me tell you. Granted, it could be described as a bit too much, and it also gives away the fact that it's a fan-made short. But honestly, I think the results are pretty nice regardless. One more example I have is this short animation that I made called Dusk. It was originally supposed to be a YCH, but it was a bit overproduced for it to be, so I just made it into a regular 10-second short, I guess. When I first released it, the composition was awful because I just couldn't get the right effect I was going for. The bloom was off, it was way too bright in the background area, and it all just kind of didn't look right. Recently I spent more time on it, experimented a lot, actually messed with some of the elements in After Effects, and I came up with a way better result right here. And even though it came out with a better result, I kind of learned that there's a few limits when it comes to compositing animation. You can only do so much in terms of lights, shadows, highlights, and shading. You have to be careful of not adding too much to make the scene too bright or too colorful. Sometimes you got to take the more complex, harder route in order to get good results. There isn't really press this button for better quality, or press this button for good shadows, press this button to make everything beautiful, or anything like that. A quick little bonus, but I actually made a VHS effect and put it on one of my other animations that I made for fun. It was in the Junior's production outro logo thing, but instead of the orange and blue claymation characters, I replaced it with Chili and Bluey. Now imagine it as lost media. Anyways, that's it. I hope you guys had fun with me here in the Sandbox, and I shall see you guys next time. Later.